is going on, everyone, and welcome to Yota Xpedition. We got the 3rd gen Tacoma in the shop, and in this one we're going to be doing a full in-depth installation of the BodyArmor 4x4 Highline bumper and their high clearance sides as well. So when adding a bumper like this to your Tacoma, you're going to be getting strength, obviously, because this is a full steel construction bumper. You're going to be getting more clearance. So with these side extensions on here, we're going to be adding more clearance to the front for approach angle and also for adding bigger tires. On the bumper, you're also going to have very easily accessible recovery points. So if you or someone else is in a pinch, you can just hook up to that and get yourself or them out. We're also going to be adding a winch into this bumper. We have a 10,000 pound winch here from Super Winch, and we have a bunch of Baja lighting that we're going to be getting installed in this as well. Stay tuned and we'll show you how to get it done. So step 1 is going to be removing the grill, which is very easy to do. We got 2 bolts and we got 2 clips, and we'll pull this out. We also have to unplug the TSS sensor, but that's nothing. We'll go ahead and get this out, and then we can start taking all the bolts and clips out so that we can remove the actual bumper cover itself. So we got 10 mil here, 10 mil here. We have a clip on this side and on this side as well. Let's go ahead and get those out. All right, unplug that TSS sensor. We have a clip here holding the wiring in to the bracket on the grill. Go ahead and remove that as well. Now just grab these 2 brackets, lift them up over the little posts that are where the bolts were, and just pull this straight out. And that's it. Now we're going to have 6 more clips to take off. You have 1 here on your headlight, and then we have 4 along the top here, and then another 1 on your headlight on this side. So now we're going to be working on the sides of the bumper. On our wheel wells here, we're going to have some clips and bolts. We're going to be removing that. We have some clips that hold the fender flare to the bumper. We're going to have to reach our hand inside behind the inner wheel well. We're going to have to depress those clips and get the fender flare removed from the bumper. And then we're going to have some bolts along the bottom of the bumper. We'll get those removed. And then we just have some clips underneath the headlight. We'll get all that popped out, and we'll get the front bumper removed. So we got those 2 bolts and 1 clip removed from the wheel well here, and I reached my hand inside and I got these clips removed. You can see we have a total of 3 clips holding the fender flare to the bumper. Now we're going to have some plastic clips up here. We're only going to pop off a couple. So we got 1. There's 2 there, it just popped off. That'll give us enough room to get this bumper removed. So let's go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. We're going to have 2 10mm bolts down here. We have this plug here. We're going to take that off. As you saw, we disconnected that clip from the metal piece there. So that's for our fog lights. So I think we have all the bolts and clips removed for the bumper. So now we're actually going to work on getting the bumper removed itself. So reaching our hand inside the fender liner, we're going to start popping the clips out for this. Go ahead to the other side. Caught on our fender flare over here. There we go. Front bumper is off. We have that on a stand here. We are going to have to go and cut this soon, but we're going to go ahead and continue getting the rest of this stuff taken off. We have to get off the factory crash bar, and we're also going to remove these little wings for your radiator. We need to also relocate the power steering cooler. They have brackets to push that back to give us some extra clearance. So we'll go ahead and get all that stuff done, and then we can start laying out the bumper to get that cut. So to get this crash absorber piece off is very simple. There's just some plastic clips. All you got to do is push them with your finger, and we can go ahead and take this off. There is a total of 4, I believe. Just kidding, there's 6. So that comes right off, and now we can get the nuts removed to take off the crash bar itself. So we're gonna have a total of 6 14mm nuts. We're gonna get the crash bar off, and then we have extenders that bolt to the frame itself. We're gonna take those off as well. So you're also gonna have these clips here, one on either side, that is going from this bracket to your fender liner. So you need to depress that and pop that out as well, just like that. Do that on both sides. Now we can remove this. Now we have those extenders I was talking about that come off the frame itself. Take off those 14mm nuts as well. So now we can relocate the power steering cooler. We're gonna have 2 bolts, one here on either side, holding the power steering cooler to the frame. We're gonna take those off. And then we also have one from the passenger side wheel well. So we are gonna be replacing all 3 locations with a new bracket from BodyArmor 4x4, and that's gonna allow us to push the cooler back so we have room for our bumper. So we got a 12mm for those bolts. Go ahead and take those out. We're gonna take off the 3rd bolt here for the power steering bracket. So we also have to remove this factory tow hook here. That's gonna be a 17mm. We've got a breaker bar on that. We'll go ahead and get that loose. So now we're going to take the brackets from BodyArmor 4x4. We're going to put the stud towards the back of the vehicle, and then this hole here is where we're going to put that factory bolt back through into the frame, and then we can put the power steering cooler onto that stud, which is now pushed back about 2 inches, and then we'll put a flat washer and a nylock nut on there. Got the 3rd bracket in place. Go ahead and put the factory bolt back in. And our new washer and our nut. Okay, so we have our BodyArmor 4x4 bumper here on the table, and we have our 10,000-pound super winch. We're gonna go ahead and get all the hardware installed into the bottom of the winch. We have the square nuts that go into the slots. We're gonna get that positioned into the bumper. We'll get that bolted down, and then we'll grab our 20-inch Baja light bar. We'll get that mounted as well. So we got the winch all mounted into the bumper. Now we have our 20-inch light bar here from Baja Designs. This is their S8 light bar, and we have the brackets from the BodyArmor 4x4 bumper mounted to the side. And we can go ahead now and drop this into the bumper, get this mounted up. Now this bumper from BodyArmor is made for a dual row light bar. We're using the single here from Baja Designs, so there's a little bit extra space on this opening, but it still looks good. All right, light bar is mounted up, and we're pretty much done with the pre-assembly here of the front bumper. Now we can go and take that, we can get it onto the Tacoma, and we'll start mounting this up. So obviously this is gonna be easier with 2 people. The combination of this bumper and winch is not very light, so go ahead and put it on the studs, and we'll get one of these nuts started so it doesn't go anywhere. Now we also need to mount the brackets that go on either side of the bumper, and then the extensions mount to those. So we'll go ahead and grab those. We'll get those mounted as well, and then we can get all the nuts attached here for the bumper. So right here we have the bracket that's gonna be mounting to our bumper, and then our side extension is gonna be mounting to this. So those 3 studs that are on the Tacoma from factory, where we slipped the bumper over, we're also going to slip this on there as well, and then get those nuts started. So I just centered up the bumper. I got it so that the stud is pretty much in the middle of the slots here because the bumper is adjustable left and right. So we'll just start off with it centered. So in addition to those 3 factory nuts that we have holding the bumper on, BodyArmor 4x4 also gives you this very long bolt, and that's going to be going through the 4th hole on the bottom of the bumper. It's going to go through the front of the frame, and then we'll put a washer and a nut on the back side. Okay, so we have all the bolts started on the front bumper, and now we can work on getting the side extensions mounted to the bumper. So we have those here on the table, and we have the lighting that we are putting into those. So we have 2 Baja Designs S2 Pros that I connected together and then made some brackets to get these mounted in here. These are actually made for a single 8-inch, I think, light bar, but we didn't have those. We're using these from Baja, and I just made it work. So we're gonna go ahead and get this mounted into our side extensions, and then we can get these mounted to the bumper. All right, so there you have it, all mounted into the side extension, and I think it fits pretty well in there. We're now ready to get these side extensions mounted to the bumper, so we have all the hardware here to get that done. We have these plates with the bolts welded to it. That's going to be going on the inside of the extension. And then once we get that fed through, we have these plastic square washers that's going to go on the back side. And then that's going to go in between your side extension and those brackets that we mounted onto the bumper. And then we have another bracket here with a bolt welded in it, a single. We'll drop that down for our 3rd hole and get that in place. Again, the plastic square washer on the back. So now we're going to take one of our side extensions. We're going to get those studs fed through those other brackets here. And then we'll get the washers and nuts on the back side. So we got both side extensions onto the bumper. We have all the nuts started here on the back side. And what we're going to do is get it so that it's sitting nice and flush here on the bumper. And I'm going to leave a little tiny gap in between the 2 pieces so they're not rubbing against each other. And I'm going to snug it down there. All right, so we have both sides tightened up so that this is nice and flush. Now, once we get the factory bumper cut and we get that in place, I'm kind of thinking that we might have to make some adjustments. Hopefully not. Hopefully we're good right here. But we can either make adjustments to this, or we can do some more trimming and stuff to the factory bumper to get it to line up nicely with what we have here. So let's go ahead and start marking the factory bumper and tape that so that we can get all of our lines and start cutting it. All right, so first things first, this black piece here, the valance, we're gonna go ahead and remove that. So we have some clips from the back side. We can go ahead and get all those taken out. On the top section here of the bumper, we're going to measure from this face where the valance was up against. We're going to measure 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to make a couple of marks along the top here, and then we can make a line on that. The front side on the top is easy to mark. The back here is where it gets a little bit more difficult for those side extensions. So from the back side of the bumper, they want you to measure 1/4 inch from this body line down. And then they want you to measure from this half circle here, 3/8 to a 1/2 inch down. So we made our mark here, we made our mark here, and now you have to connect those 2 dots with tape, and you want to try to make that as straight as possible, which is very difficult because obviously the bumper is curving. So I had Jared hold the tape up here at this mark while I had it started down here on this mark, and I pushed it in as straight as I could. Now, hopefully we have it close enough. We'll probably have to do some trimming or some sanding to get it perfect, but there's really no easy way of doing this. Okay, so now that you have the front laid out, we have the sides laid out. Now we're gonna go ahead and get this cut. So you can use a cutoff wheel like this, you can use an air saw, you can use a Dremel, you can use an oscillating tool, whatever you have to get it cut and you think is easiest. So let's go ahead and get this cut, and then we can start sanding it and do some test fits and see how it fits. All right, so we made our rough cuts on the sides and the front. We're just gonna do a quick test fit, and we're gonna do this now before I start cleaning things up in case I need to cut more. So we'll go ahead and fit this up and see how we're looking. Okay, so we have plenty of room here on the front and we have plenty of room here on the back. Right here where the bumper curves is where we're having our issues. So I'll make a nice mark from this side to this side so that we have a nice even reveal, and then hopefully we should be able to get this to fit. All right, so after many times of test fitting this, taking it off, sanding more, as you can see, I finally have it to where it's fitting nicely. If I need to make any more adjustments, I'll just do that here with the wings itself. Both sides look even. They're both cut and sanded evenly. So for a quick base measurement of where we are right now, the front, I did not touch anything. So 3/4 of an inch all the way across the front. And then below the fog light here, you have this body line. So it's gonna be a 1/4 inch in the front, just like the instructions say, but also measure a 1/4 inch here at the back before it starts to curve up. Mark that 1/4 inch on both ends. And then this little hole here for the fender flare clip, you should have a 1/2 inch of this still exposed. So you can mark that. And now you have 3 points to make a nice line. And that should be a really good base point. You can start cutting there and then make your small adjustments so you get it just perfect. So we're gonna go ahead now and get the trim molding pieces both on the factory bumper and on the bumper from BodyArmor 4x4. They give you these short pieces, which I forgot and should have put these on prior to putting the side extensions on, but those are gonna go right here where the side extension meets the bumper itself. So we can still go ahead and get these in there and cut them to length. Now we can take the longer piece and we'll run that from all the way on the one side to the other side of the front bumper. So before we get the bumper in place, we need to mark our fender flares. Now is probably the best time to do it because we have access to this surface, and I'm gonna take a silver Sharpie. I'm gonna lay that on here and I'm just going to run that on the fender flare so that we have a nice uniform cut. Let's go ahead and finally get this thing fitted on. I'll probably do some fine adjustments on those fender flares that I trimmed to get it matching on both sides. All right, OEM bumper cover is now in place and I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a couple of these clips in so that it's held in place. And we have to finish up trimming and making the bottom of the fender flares look nice. And then the last thing we need to cut is the inner fender. We'll cut that so it's not hanging down super low. And then before I put the grill in, I'm gonna wire up the winch and we can go from there. So it's the next day. We finished up yesterday with the fender flares. I got those all cleaned up and looking good. I put some of that trim molding on there as well to clean up the edge. I put all the bolts and stuff in for the fender liner. Still need to cut those, so we're gonna start the day by cutting those and finishing that, and then we can do the wiring for the winch, and then we'll get that grill back in. So before we cut the fender liner, I just wanna note that when I cut the bumper, I wanted to make sure that I left the little piece on there where the fender liner clipped onto. I didn't want to cut that off, so when we go and cut the fender liner, I'm going to cut right below where it mounts and go straight across and cut all that off so we have some extra clearance down here. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape on there for a reference line. I'm just going to use a fresh razor blade. That should cut through this fairly easily. So we got both sides cut. There are some factory body clips on the inside that hold that, and they're pretty loose, and this is kind of floppy. So I have some, you can buy like a kit from Harbor Freight or whatever, that has a bunch of different body clips. So we're gonna put some in there that are a little bit tighter to make it fit and not flop as much. At this point, the bumper installation itself is finished. We got the fender liners cut, and that was our last step. So now we're gonna go ahead and get the winch hooked up to our battery. So I got the positive and negative running through this, and I'm just gonna take a piece of that trim molding that we have extra, and I'm gonna put that on the bottom here, just in case we end up having some issues. We don't want that wire to get cut. Okay, so we have all the wire routed nicely and secure, power on the battery, ground on the chassis here, so we can go ahead and test it. We have the wireless remote. I'll go ahead and press both buttons at the same time. We're now in wireless mode. So we are good there. We'll go ahead and throw on the hook, and we'll finish up the front end. We also got some BodyArmor 4x4 D-rings that we can get onto this bumper as well. Go ahead and throw the grill back on. All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap for the front bumper here from BodyArmor 4x4. Really nice bumper, and I love the fact that you have the option to add these side extensions. Not many bumpers for the Tacoma have that option, so that's really one cool plus. Now, one thing I would say I don't like about this bumper is the fact that you don't have an access for the winch. You have to pop the hood and go in through here, which isn't the end of the world. But if there was one thing I could change, it would be that. But with that being said, if you guys have any questions about the installation of this bumper or the side extensions, ask us down below in the comments. If you guys want to pick one of these bumpers up for your Tacoma, you can grab it from YotaXpedition.com. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.